Hello everyone, welcome back to Durbanites FPL. Quick turnaround this week for game week 13 leading into game week 14. Late evening cutoff tomorrow, guys. Please be ready for it. 8 p.m. for those in South Africa. Don't forget to make your changes. Let's get into it, starting with the table for the second week in a row. It's our highlighter. Suwat Khan is at the top. She is our current leader, second week in a row and looking strong. The only one this week to get over 50 points and at least keep it in the running. 23 points is the lead currently. The rest of it is still pretty fluid. Everyone moving in there, in and out within 20 some odd points. Second half of the table, the original champ is still there. Fatality on 61, leading again a spirited fight back. Everything is super close. As you can see, even down at the bottom, fights are happening there. Everyone except Obi-Wan Iwobi, who did start late, so we understand why he is where he is. Time to jump in to look at the player selection. Still our three staples in there, but with some free hits. Erling Haaland goes right up to 90% this game week 13, and Antoine Semenyo and Mickey Van de Ven dropping to 55%. Again, mostly led by free hits, but also some people getting skittish about Semenyo's form and minutes. Now looking at the differentiators, Phil Foden, Dango Otara, Cody Gakpo, all of them owned by one manager and coming up with double figures this week. Bruno Fernandes doing really well for Manchester United, picking up bonus points and 2 assists. Young Lewis Miley coming good for Newcastle United and leading that 4-1 thumping of Everton in the weekend. And Igor Thiago still busy putting goals in there. 13 points for him this weekend. Definitely one at Brentford, owned by 4 out of our 21 managers. Now, looking at the hits and misses, not too many to talk about this week because it was a shit week for everybody. Stonewall, 20 plus points for Didi and Squish. He just does it week after week, even when things go really bad. She's still in there. One super striker, Mob's doing well, 20 plus points with Walter Made in place and Thiago doing really well. And a hot bench for Fatih, unfortunately sitting with big points sitting on the bench and couldn't get them subbed in time, so 20 plus points sitting there for her. Now, looking at the best teams based on the players that we had selected, Martinez gets the number 1 journey for Aston Villa. Petrovic is not even close to sit on the bench. Guardiola, Chaloba and Cash make up the defense, putting Virgil van Dijk because of his price and Dan Burn on the bench. That midfield powerhouses, Fernandes, Foden, Dango, Gakpo and young Lewis Miley picking up the captain's armband as well based on price. Look at that, 30 points for 4.4, insanely good for those that played him. Thiago in there for 6.6, he's the top striker. Walter Mada partnering as well for a super striker partnership. Alexander Isak getting his first goal for Liverpool, but not good enough to get off the bench this week, but he did contribute to the prices. That team would have got you 130 on the field, 150 on the bench at a total cost of 93.2. With that, let's jump in and look at the matchups for this next 10 game weeks, guys. It's all coming quick and fast now. Let's look at this one. Teams to avoid: Fulham coming up against City this week is going to be tough. Then a tough Crystal Palace before you can start looking at players from there for the next 3 run. Leeds as well coming up against some tough competition. Chelsea and Liverpool back to back before visiting a tricky Brentford, then Crystal Palace and a resurgent Sunderland, then Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle. It is an insane run of form for Chelsea. I would not back them through this run. It's going to be very close for them. Spurs on the back of their loss to Fulham, now going to Newcastle, who just bashed in Everton 4-1, so look at what's going to happen there. Then again Brentford, who are tricky, Notts Forest, who are on their way back, and then Liverpool. So Spurs in for a tough time as well. A lot of war happening between the manager, the players and the fans, so just keep an eye on that. Sunderland not clear yet. Liverpool and Manchester City are tough back-to-back fixtures for them. If they can make it out of those two, then they've got Newcastle waiting for them, Brighton, who are really good, before they get onto Leeds, but then Man City lying in wait. So tough games coming up as well for them. Then you've got West Ham, still not doing fantastically well, did get beaten by Liverpool on the weekend. Time for Manchester United to welcome them as well. And then you've got Brighton, Villa, City before they hit Fulham. Now looking at the teams that we have favoured for this week though, Crystal Palace taking on Burnley, expect them to do well there, and then a fairly good run except for two fixtures that are quite tricky for them. Liverpool, Man City and Man United, you can look at the greens concentrated in that part of the fixture board, at least for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Those are your rotations, including Notts Forest, who are doing really well now, with Sean Dyche in there, and taking on Wolves, who are sitting right at the bottom of the league. So guys, a chance now, if you have these players, you're looking at Elliot Anderson. Murillo is doubtful, but obviously a choice if you want to put him on. And you're looking at Morgan Gibbs-White, who's also nursing a little knock, but might be able to play. With that, let's look at our player selections on the back line. Nick Pope is doubtful now. Not sure whether this is something that the club is spinning in order to give him some downtime after his terrible performance that saw them losing 1 to 11 Marseille. However, Aaron Ramsdale did do well. Not sure whether I would put him as a pick. I have not. But Donnarumma for City, Alisson for Liverpool, Henderson for Crystal Palace, and Petrovic for Bournemouth are good picks for this week. Looking at the defenders that are out, Colwell is long-term out from Chelsea, Brantwaite still out for Everton, Robinson for Fulham, Frimpong and Bradley out for Liverpool, so look at Joe Gomez as a pick. He did really well in the game against West Ham, so it's very, very likely he will start again if you want to get a Liverpool defender in, and you feel that they will do well against Sunderland. Then you've got Gabriel out for Arsenal. Saliba is doubtful but may play. So in that case, you have Mosquera and Hincapié. But looking at the selections as well, Timber is the one that we would choose from Arsenal. He should be locked for minutes now with the other reshuffling that's happening in defense. I don't think they will keep him out. By the way, for guys that have Senesi, he is now suspended after picking up his 5th yellow card in the first half of the season. That is a suspension that sees him out until the 6th of December. So just bear that in mind. If you're not transferring him out, remember to rotate him. However, his fixtures might show that you don't need to keep him. From the choices, that's also after Timber, you've got the Crystal Palace pairing of Munoz and Lacroix. If you don't have the money for them, guys, then you can still go for Gay or Richards, although they don't have the same attacking returns. Looking at Aston Villa, Digne and Cash, they did well also with clean sheets on the weekend, so a chance for you to play them again. Van Dijk for Liverpool, considering they're going up against Sunderland, it's possible that he might get up another clean sheet after this weekend. Guardiola for City with his attacking threat as well saved every manager that had him on their side this weekend. And then Nico O'Reilly, who's also seemed locked for minutes now, he's doing really well under Pep Guardiola. Looking at the midfielders, a few injuries here. Trossard still out for Arsenal, at least not out but doubtful, so he might get a few minutes. Madison, Kulusevski are out, but Kudus is back for sure after that goal last weekend. Then you got Caicedo, who is suspended after that tackle on. What was that? Well, the tackle on the weekend was quite bad, and so he's suspended now. Then you've got Rodri, who's still doubtful for City. Mitoma and Jorginho Rutter. Rutter is actually still doubtful, but might play. Gibbs-White doubtful. Cunha picked up a knock in training last week, so he's missed out these couple of weeks. Ismail Assar has now picked up a knock and might not play, according to Olivier Glasner, might not play until after the AFCON, so just be aware of that for Ismail Assar. In the picks, Liverpool with the fixture that they have, Salah and Szoboszlai are our picks from the midfield. You might want to look at Cody Gakpo as an option as well. Then from City, you've got Phil Foden, who looks like he's coming back to form with Ryan Cherki. Semenyo for Bournemouth, we're still holding on to him for now unless he starts blanking a lot. If you watch the game, you would know that he had a good performance, he just was unlucky. Saka, Rice and Eze, take your pick from that Arsenal midfield. You're looking at pricing, which is kind of Saka at the top and Rice at the bottom end and Eze somewhere in between. Neto and Enzo for Chelsea are your best routes to points in terms of goals, especially without Caicedo there. I expect Enzo will play for sure. And Neto's doing quite well on the wing, but again, unlucky not to score more. Yankuba Minte for Brighton is definitely an option with Mitoma and Rutter doubtful. He'll definitely get the minutes. He might also get the points as he did last weekend. Mbeumo for Manchester United is definitely one of their most threatening players. Bruno Fernandes if you have the money, but He's not really been returning for the money that he's worth. And then you've got Elliot Anderson, who is cracking it at Nottingham Forest and they have fairly good games. So look at him making that run. Now let's jump into the forward line. Arsenal have some forwards available again. Kai Havertz is the only one highly doubtful. Gabby Jesus has been in training and he is ready to play. Not sure whether he'll get a start. And Victor Gyökeres also had a run out against Chelsea, although he was completely ineffective. Wissa's not playing yet, and it is very possible he will only come after the AFCON, but with Woltemata scoring regularly, I don't think they're missing him too much. Solanke still out for Spurs. They really do miss him. What is out for Forest? Ekitike is still nursing a back injury at Liverpool, but he might get some minutes. Sesko for Manchester United is out until the 16th of December, and Rodrigo is still out for Fulham. That being said, Erling Haaland is the man. Didn't do well this weekend. However, he has a good chance coming up for Manchester City. A good fixture for them, so may back him this week. Even a chance for you to go triple captain if you still have that chip and decide that you want to play it. So he's a good option you might want to go for. Danny Welbeck at Brighton. He's always good for some consistent points. Raul Jimenez for Fulham. Looks dangerous, was unlucky not to score. The last weekend he came very, very close with a header, but unfortunately couldn't put one in, even with the goals raining in at Spurs. So that was quite unlucky for him.